and 6 through the sinister world of Little Nightmares, with a theory exploring the possible origins of the mysterious Signal Man. Or rather, the Thin Man, as this was recently confirmed by the developers to be the real name of this creepy character. Now, during our analysis of the Little Nightmares 2 trailer last week, I briefly mentioned the possibility that this freakishly tall character looked very similar to another freakishly tall character from the original game, the Hanging Man we encounter during this haunting scene. So what exactly is the connection between these two characters? Well, sit back, relax, and let's explore the possibility that they are indeed one and the same. 6 encountered the body of the Hanging Man towards the very beginning of her journey into the depths of the moor. What appeared to be a suicide note can be seen on the floor beneath his feet. The contents of this note are, to this day, unknown. It is likely, given the nightmarish cruelty of this world, that the Hanging Man was a prominent figure aboard the moor who could no longer live with himself after being responsible for the abduction and death of so many children. With no other way out, he decided to end it all. And this is where we find him, finally at peace. Or maybe not. You see, nothing in this world is ever given the sweet relief of death. The Pretender, being groomed inside the walls of the nest, eventually harnesses her power and puts it to use aboard the moor, where she becomes showrunner, the Lady. The previous lady then being laid to rest in the bowels of the moor as the Granny, and forced to live out the rest of her days within the stagnant, flooded halls beneath. We see this foreshadowing in the DLC as the lady glimpses her miserable future in the mirror. We must logically conclude that Hanging Man would have had a morbid fate too. Knowing there was no happy ending at the end of this dark tunnel, he decided to end it all. Now, if we turn our attention to Thin Man, what do we see? This new image released on the official Little Nightmares 2 website and reveals his concept art. Something that immediately jumps out is his build, his long legs, arms, and lanky body. This body is, if you'll excuse the pun, a dead match for Hanging Man. Not only that, his clothes are also identical, note the black suit and shoes. However, the most interesting evidence can be seen when looking at his face and neck. Thin Man's eyes are closed as he moves about, which is obviously not normal for a living person, but would make perfect sense for a living corpse. Point 2, the neck itself. It bends to the left as if snapped, and what method did Hanging Man use to end his life? Why, he hung himself, of course. So a broken neck as seen here matches up perfectly. This is really a morbid topic, isn't it? An evident case linking Thin Man to Hanging Man, and this connection only becomes clearer when we analyse the website character description, which reads as follows. As the ever-present hum of the transmission chokes the airwaves, the Thin Man continues his endless journey through this desolate place, haunting the shadows, searching for something. Looking at this short paragraph gives us a few noteworthy tidbits. First of all, the transmission is capitalised. This means the transmission in itself is a character. Well, kind of. It's a physical presence and something which is a danger all of its own. Now, previously we had speculated that the Thin Man was the mastermind behind the ominous transmissions broadcast from the signal tower at the centre of the city. A tower which we had been informed is weakening 6 by the moment and controlling the minds of the Pale City citizens. But looking at the way the transmission is described here, it suggests we may be looking at a different scenario, one where Thin Man himself, much like the townsfolk, is also under the influence and control of the signal tower, and the transmission radiating from it. The nefarious broadcasts sent out by this signal tower are evident no matter which game from the Little Nightmares universe we venture into. In Very Little Nightmares, we witness a room full of these all too realistic looking dolls facing a screen which blares out static in the darkness. A chilling sight which confirms the manipulative signal reaches even as far as the nest. Then, in Little Nightmares itself, while aboard the moor, we encounter several TV sets, but the most noteworthy is found midway through the game in this room here. We can change the channel on this particular television to get an idea of some of the signal tower's broadcasts. The results are creepy to say the least. One channel shows a shadowy figure kidnapping a child from their bed at night. We see many children abducted by the monsters of this world, and it seems these monsters may be under the signal tower's control, instructed to carry out such vile actions through the brainwashing effect of these images broadcast. Other channels broadcast strange images of an all-seeing eye, with odd noises heard behind them. Perhaps these broadcasts have a subliminal long-term effect on viewers who are susceptible. It seems this is indeed the case, and Hanging Man was one such victim, but seemingly managed to snap out of the transmission's control for long enough to end his part in this madness. The second part of the description really gives us something to work with in terms of theorising what the fate of Hanging Man actually was. It mentions how Thin Man continues his endless journey and haunts the shadows. Haunts is an interesting choice of words and brings us back to our speculation during the trailer analysis, that Thin Man may in fact be the ghost of Hanging Man, and if he is a ghost, that would also make perfect sense for describing his journey as endless. Hanging Man hasn't been granted peace in the afterlife, but instead he is trapped in an endless cycle of misery within this terrible world, searching for something. When we look at the way Thin Man moves during the latest trailer, we notice something spooky and supernatural about him. He does not appear to fully exist in the scene as Mono does, but rather flickers in and out of existence while gently stepping forward, reminiscent of how we may envision a spectre or phantom. At times he glitches forward quickly as if time is catching up with him. While Thin Man travels through the screens of these televisions, he seems to only half exist in this world, perpetually trapped on another plane of existence. And once again, this makes perfect sense if he is indeed the spirit of his former self. There are several things we don't know about Thin Man at this time. The first question would be that if he is the ghost of Hanging Man, then how did this come about? The conclusion I have currently come to is that Hanging Man, as stated previously, was a prominent figure in this world, and one of importance to whomever is controlling the transmission. Therefore, when his spirit left its body, the signal tower used the transmission to trap it between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Using the TV signals found around the moor, the transmission ensnared Hanging Man's soul and bent it to its will, and now his soul wanders as a ghost in the machine, carrying out the bidding of the signal tower across the airwaves. After all, there are signs found within Little Nightmares that point to this theory being correct. A hat that looks eerily similar to the one worn by Thin Man can be seen in plain sight atop this chair in the TV room aboard the moor. And moving over to the post-credit sequence for the Little Nightmares DLC The Residents, we see a quick glimpse of a ghostly figure flash up on the screen of this television. Not a coincidence, I'm sure. So it seems we have a connection to the Hanging Man, and a theory which logically explains he is now the ghost known as Thin Man, under the control of the transmission emanating from the signal tower. But what about that certain something he is searching for? This one seems obvious. The something is a someone, a child with the power and ability to threaten the order of this world and challenge the transmission corrupting it, a child called Mono. Coincidentally, the very character we play as in the upcoming sequel. Using Thin Man's subservient ghost as a sort of puppet from beyond the grave, the signal tower sets its sights on the eradication of Mono at any cost. But surely if we can shut it down and stop these broadcasts, then we free the soul of Hanging Man, who can then finally find peace. As well as this, Mono may end up freeing the mind of everyone else committing such terrible atrocities in this nightmarish world. all of whom have themselves been conditioned to act this way by the transmission radiating from the tower. Oh, and we'll save 6 too, so, you know, that's a bonus, right? One final thought. If Mono has the ability to travel through these television screens like Thin Man, then could there be a connection between these two characters? We've mentioned this in prior theories, but now it seems clearer than ever before. Thin Man and Mono may well be related. This would mean the letter here was intended for Mono all along, the son of Hanging Man, apologising to his child for his deeds and involvement in such a cruel hierarchy. Meaning the transmission instructed Thin Man to kill his own son after sensing his great power and feeling threatened. Was this the real reason behind Thin Man's death? To prevent himself from harming his child Mono, Thin Man took his own life, but is now forced to hunt down the person he vowed to protect from beyond the grave. We'll just have to wait and see. But with that, we have come to the end of today's video.